point I want to make is that each of us has our own variation, because we can't all be doing synchronicity the same. I
Sure.
wouldn't want that to be the
No,
case.
no,
We
no.
want to have multiple perspectives on how to use it, and I have my subset, and you have yours. And I think it's important for our audience to know what their way or ways of experiencing synchronicity are.
That's a really good point, Bernie. I can't agree with you more. I mean, the basic issue is that synchronicity is an energy guidance system, but how you use it and how it appears in your life will be different person to person. But that's why it's such an exciting world at the moment, Bernie. We're actually shifting into quantum physics is beginning to grab hold of people. Quantum entanglement explains synchronicity as far as I'm concerned. There are people who are never going to believe synchronicity is true. They don't really concern me. What I'm concerned with is experts like yourself. I mean, you've been in this longer than anybody. It's about how do we now bring this to heal humanity.
Welcome to Connecting with Coincidence. I am your host, Bernard Beitman, MD, and I'm writing a book now called The Healing Humanity, and it's psychotherapy for the collective human organism is the idea behind it. And I get a chance today to talk with probably the world leader in synchronicity and leadership. And we're going to talk about how we can apply synchronicity to helping the world as it is, because there's a way in which, or many ways in which synchronicity can be useful to our trying to do something about the multiple conflicts and negative energies and distortions going on in the world, including healing humanity, being able to get along with each other a little better and connecting us better with nature. So, and with each other. So our guest today is going to help us to do that by going in 3 steps: synchronicity for the individual, synchronicity in groups and organizations, and then synchronicity in the world. And this is going to be a lot of fun to try to be able to see. So, welcome to Connecting with Coincidence, Philip Mary, and I'm going to read a little something about him. I've known Phil for quite a long time. We were early in on this synchronicity business from different perspectives. For 40 years and in 63 countries, this guy's traveled around. And I like to remind everybody, including him, he used to be a taxi driver in London. And that's good practice for this, because
Sure.
to learn how to go through those cow paths that the London streets were built on, and to have a memory of that allows you to go through the maze of that complex city. And Phil has done that, and now he's doing that with the complexities of organizations. And he's helped accelerate the power of teams with global organizations like the United Nations, World Bank, many global Fortune 300 people and organizations. He's a master team coach, having certified over 400 team coaches. He's got a PhD in synchronicity and leadership, the only one in the world. He's recognized as a world thought leader in the application of synchronicity to teams and leadership, and we're going to be doing that about our reality here, this world that we're all living in, with all the chaos that we seem to be generating for ourselves. So welcome to Connecting with Coincidence, Philip. Good to see you again.
Yeah, great to be here. This is my 4th appearance, Bernie, I think. So I just want to pay tribute to you. Nobody's doing what you're doing with these podcasts on synchronicity. So congrats, and it's a real honor to be here with you.
Thank you very much, Phil. Thank you very much. And let's proceed.
And And I'm in Singapore, just to let people know, halfway
Oh,
around
thank
the
you. I like to mention that. I like to
world.
mention that it's 10 o'clock and or after 10 p.m. in Singapore. It's 9 o'clock in the morning here in Charlottesville, Virginia, and Singapore all the way around the world from here, and I'm around the world from there. So it's wonderful that we can do this,
It's
and
great.
we're
It's great.
this global vision that we can just have by saying where each of us
Mm,
is where we're
mm.
going to be getting to in this conversation. Philip, tell us about and guide us through, and I'll be asking you questions, of course. Guide us through synchronicity for the individual, synchronicity for groups and organizations, and then we get to what I'm really moving towards is how synchronicity can help heal the world and lead us into a better evolution.
Wonderful, Bernie. Well, I mean, the one thing you've missed out, which is kind of normal, I'm in synchronicity first and foremost because of my life. I'm interested in it because I'm a practitioner who discovered synchronicity or discovered stuff coming to me out of the blue that helped me in my life. And I said, what the heck is this? How can it be that I want something and 10 minutes later I'm given it? So that I mean, I'm assuming everybody begins like that, and I know you began like that, Bernie. But that's the driving force. So yes, I can talk about individuals that I've helped, and then teams, and then the world as a whole. But it starts with me. And so very early on in my life, I had all sorts of synchronicity happen to me. The first one, I think, was when I was like 9 years old. I didn't know it was synchronicity at the time, but now I know it to be that. So to me,
Let me interrupt there for a minute, Phil, because my first one was when I was 8 or 9 also.
oh, wow,
Um,
okay. I didn't know
uh,
that.
yeah, I didn't know that about you. So
Mine
mine
was a
was,
very mine was a very simple one, Bernie. It was we moved around. My dad was a minister in the Salvation Army, mum and dad, and they moved us every year to different churches. And we were living in Devon in southwest UK, southwest England, and we were waiting for the next move because they sent you a letter and said where you're going to move to. And I remember I was in a geography class and reading the book on English industry, and there was Huddersfield. And I looked at Huddersfield and I said to myself, I think we're going to move there next. A week later, the letter came and said, you're moving to Huddersfield. Now, I didn't know it was a synchronicity at the time, but I know it to be that now. So what was yours, Bernie? What was your first one?
briefly, it was, it was, uh, my dog got lost, and
Okay.
I went to look for him, and there's a lot of details
Oh,
in that,
right. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I took the wrong turn, and we ran into each other, and that was very meaningful to me because I needed him, and it
Okay.
was just it's a longer story, but that was my first, and of course, like you, I didn't know it was anything to be called anything. I was just glad to see him.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's kind of, and that's kind of where we can start small but go big straight away.
Let's go.
Synchronicity, I know you believe this, and it certainly happened to me, is this force in the world, energy in the world that answers questions and helps me move forward with answers in my life. And so, as we think about that being true for the individual, it's bound to be true for the world as a whole. You can't have something happen to an individual and that not be true for organizations and for the world as a whole. So I basically 10, 15 years ago, I dove in deep to synchronicity because I wanted to understand why it happens. And the leaders that I spoke to, Bernie, I mean, I'm a leadership team consultant all over the world. And the leaders that I spoke to said, you know, Phil, synchronicity and intuition guide me as a leader. But then they said, please don't tell my boss. Why? Because if a leader says to their boss, I make my decisions through intuition and synchronicity, they're going to be in trouble. And so, what I'm about, and I've had guidance for this, very specific guidance for this. I'm about helping individuals who are in organizations understand how they can tap into this, decision-making process, if you like, because intuition and synchronicity help with decision-making processes. And that's why my current book is Team Synchronicity. I've written the 9 Keys of Synchronicity, which was my PhD, and based mostly on individuals. And I said to myself, if synchronicity happens to individuals, then when those individuals go to work and they're in a team, it's bound to be happening there also. So that's why I'm at the moment halfway through my next book called Team Synchronicity, helping teams tap into the power. So for me, Bernie, and I've told you stories before, and I'm happy to tell some more if you think that's relevant. I'm very much into how does this positive force, because synchronicity is a positive force that gives you answers out of the blue without any causation to questions that you're facing. So it happens for me as an individual. It for sure happens with teams. And the topic of our conversation today, for sure, it happens to nations and the world.
Now let's pause for a minute there, Phil, because what I'm hearing is your way of experiencing synchronicity as a way that questions are answered.
That's one aspect of it. Yeah.
Well, it's a key one for you. It's not the only
Guidance.
one.
No,
It's
it's a guidance system.
it's a guidance system. It's still a decision making thing, without trying to put you too much in a category, but it's important for us to know how each person thinks about their own synchronicities, because as you say, it comes from you. We're starting from your own experience as when you were 9 and you were starting to have more. You could see, hey, this is where we're going. So it gave you guidance that you didn't know you were having. And that's a very influential thing. For me, running into my dog, it was like, internal GPS, I call it, getting
Yeah,
where you
yeah.
need to be. And that's kind of connecting to the way I experience synchronicities, that we have our fundamental patterns, our own ways of doing things. But that's important. But the most important thing I've heard from you, which I didn't know of you before, Phil, is if it's happening small, it's happening medium, and it's happening large. And you say that so easily.
Well, I've
It
seen it so often, Bernie. I've seen it. I've seen it because I work in teams. Well, let's back up a little bit. My book and my PhD was what facilitates synchronicity. That was the question that I asked in the field research. So I got the answers to that, which brought me to the 9 keys of synchronicity. And so if it happens to individuals, which it does, you and I know it does, different ways it happens, but it's a guidance system, a GPS system. Then when those individuals go into their organizations and teams, do you think synchronicity just leaves them alone? No, that energy system is still with them. And so what I'm working on is, just as I found the 9 keys of synchronicity, that's mostly an individual focus. What I'm now working on is, what are the ways in which we can encourage synchronicity within a team and organizational setting?
Wonderful question, and that's what we'll get to. At what can we do in the world for that to happen? And as you like to tell the $15,000 story. It's your favorite story. I know it. So,
Well, it's the easiest one to tell. But the most, yeah, $15,000, very simple story. 10 minutes before 4 here in Singapore, I need $15,000 to settle the books, balance the books. 10 minutes later, my partner in Amsterdam called me and said, can you go to Beijing next week? And by the way, the money's good, it's $15,000. So 10 minutes after saying I need $15,000, $15,000 was handed to me.
yeah, and that's a simple version of more complex ones, but that's
Yes.
what that's one that that's fundamental to at least your story, not the only thing that
Yeah,
you
it's
have.
fundamental. And the more complex one, and this is like the most amazing thing, and I probably told you this before, but maybe I haven't. And this is related to why I'm following synchronicity as my purpose in life, why I'm doing this. I was talking to a friend of mine in a coffee bar in Singapore, and I just said, "Hi, Cliff, how you doing?" And I said, last week was my 66th birthday. One thing I said to him.
Oh
The
yeah.
next thing I said to him was, I had a strange dream last night that I was a freedom fighter, overcoming the oppressive king in a country. The only two things I said to him: 66th birthday, and I was a freedom fighter. Dreamt I was a freedom fighter. At that precise moment, a guy walked past me in the shopping mall with a t-shirt, and on the back of the t-shirt it said 66 freedom fighter. Now, that was a more complex synchronicity, because the two elements of it I understood to be 66 in Chinese, and majority Chinese in Singapore, means luck, luck. And I just delivered my dissertation to be marked for my PhD, and I took 66 to mean that my dissertation would be successful. And it was, and I got my PhD. The freedom fighter is very much concerned with what we're talking about now. It took me a week or two to really understand it. And it goes to what I said to you earlier, when leaders I worked with said, "Yes, I use intuition and synchronicity in my leadership. Please don't tell my boss." So they are imprisoned in a Newtonian, mechanical, logical way of looking at their work. And I see myself very much at the moment, Bernie, as a freedom fighter to help leaders and organizations get free from this notion that everything is logical. And we're
That
in
is
an
so that is so cool, Phil. I mean, I didn't remember, you didn't say it, I don't think, the freedom
no,
fighter
I didn't.
idea
I
before.
didn't because yeah.
Uh, this is like what I'm doing, of course.
Yes.
It's breaking out, and the way that I'm thinking about the freedom fighting includes that we are not isolated individuals. We are individuals and part of something greater. We
Yes.
we are we are me, we are we, and I also me, we, and also Earth. We're also part
Yeah.
of the Earth,
Yeah.
so
Yes.
that our self-identity is to free us up from the rigid freedom fighting. I like that. The rigidity of thinking it's only me here. It's all
Yeah.
about me. It's
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
us.
That's the essence of what I'm doing, Bernie. All of my work is about how do we get to the we and not just to the I. Everything I do is about teams. To me, so if anybody here really needs to understand synchronicity, I mean, isn't it amazing that I just said the words 66 and freedom fighter, and a guy walked straight past me? When the hell do you ever find a t-shirt with 66 freedom fighter on it? So if anybody wants to question synchronicity, you can do, but that's synchronicity. I didn't plan for the guy to be there. I didn't pay for him to be there. He just walked past me and reflected exactly what I said. So the freedom fighter bit, I get excited about this, Bernie, you know that. The freedom fighter bit is we are all imprisoned in the Newtonian mindset that says that logic is the only answer to the world's issues and to our own issues. And so I'm very much into we need to have the head and we need to have the heart. A lot of people say, ask the heart. No, we got a head. You got to use the head too. And so the interesting thing, and it's how can I put this, Bunny? It is so mind-blowing to say that if there is this system in the world, a GPS guidance system that can produce a guy with a t-shirt, that can produce $15,000, and many other examples I could give you, That same energy system, and I very much lean on quantum physics and quantum entanglement that says we are all energy. Behind matter, we're all energy. That same energy is at work in the world. So it's not a question of if synchronicity can help humanity, it's how do we make sure that we can get on that trail and uncover so it can help humanity.
How do we do that, Phil?
Very simple. You just take what you know to be true for individual synchronicity and look out for where that's happening in the world. And you know, Bernie, it's already happening in the world. It's already happening that you have groups of people who are intending, and a lot of synchronicity is about intention, and they are impacting parts of the world halfway around the world to reduce crime and violence in a particular city. And that group of people is sitting in the States, and they're impacting a city in Asia simply by intending and connecting with that city. And we know that that's happening. And so how we do it for me, in exactly the same way that we do individual synchronicity, my number one key of my 9 keys of synchronicity is look at the world with different eyes. Look around at all the stuff that's there and ask yourself, what is the message that I'm getting? When I have a problem to solve in my business, Bernie, obviously I use my brain and my head, but very often I'll just go out of my office and walk around Singapore and look for the answers in Singapore. Because somewhere, somehow, that message will come to me. Very simple one. I don't think I've told you this before. I was thinking 20 years ago about moving from my current apartment and renting out my apartment. And I said, shall I do it? Shall I not do it? Shall I do it? Shall I not do it? It was driving me crazy. I was driving in my car, stopped at the traffic lights just down here outside my house, stopped at the traffic lights saying, should I move? Should I not move? Should I move? Should I not move? A van appeared to my left at the traffic lights. Written across the side of the van was the words, make the move. And so based on that, I went, rented out my apartment, got somewhere else. So, you know, how I can put this, we need to move beyond, is synchronicity true? There are so many examples throughout the world, famous figures, and you and me, you're more famous than me, but you and me know of examples where answers come. So the number one way that I say to people is, first of all, look around you at what's appearing in your environment and be able to answer the question by what you see in your environment. I tell you a
One of my
simple example.
I'll hear your example. One of my favorite ways of doing that, getting more of, is when I have a bunch of patients that am doing that more with. Like,
Okay,
what are they dealing with that
okay, okay.
is a thing for me? And
Yeah,
it was pretty much slapped me in the face a couple of times ago with one of them. But then yesterday it was like this guy gets upset with himself over small things,
right,
and
right,
and I'm watching myself getting upset with myself over small things. So there's a mirroring in the
right,
way I'm doing
right.
it with our environment with me. So I'm looking at myself in the mirror with my environment. Uh,
Okay,
so, so that it's related to what you're talking about, but a point I want to make is that each of us has our own variation because we can't all be doing synchronicity the same. I
sure.
wouldn't want that to be the
No,
case.
no,
We
no.
want to have multiple perspectives on how to use it, and I
Yeah,
have my subset, and you have yours. And I think it's important for our audience to know what their way or ways of experiencing synchronicity are.
that's a really good point, Bernie. I can't agree with you more. I mean, the basic issue is that synchronicity is an energy guidance system, but how you use it and how it appears in your life will be different person to person. But that's why it's such an exciting world at the moment, Bernie. We're actually shifting into quantum physics is beginning to grab hold of people. Quantum entanglement explains synchronicity as far as I'm concerned. There are people who are never going to believe synchronicity is true. They don't really concern me. What I'm concerned with is experts like yourself. I mean, you've been in this longer than anybody. Um, it's about how do we now bring this to heal humanity in a way which, first of all, about looking out for the signs. As you look around the world, what are the signs? And there's pretty bad things happening at the moment, right? I just got to
Right.
plug in my computer. But as a synchronicity at the moment, I mean, and again, we don't know exactly what it means, but I thought it was interesting that at the day that your new president wanted to get inaugurated, there was this dispute about whether the flags can be shown half-mast or not
Yeah.
because of Jimmy Carter. Now, to me, that's a synchronicity because it's saying that one of your great, humble, giving, caring presidents was a reminder on the inauguration of your new current president. So to me, that's a synchronicity because it said, and I don't want to get into the politics of your new president, but it's a reminder from the world to say, okay, we're going to America first, but let's not forget that one of our kindest, most giving presidents in terms of the world after he left the office of president has just passed away. So to me, that's a synchronicity.
That's
America
beautiful.
first, America first, and Jimmy Carter right alongside that.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And that shows us how you are thinking about synchronicity because you're alert to that. I know. Of course, I saw that dispute about half-mast but I didn't put them together the way you just did. It's a sign to say we need a balance here. Pay attention to this guy versus
Well,
what we've got
exactly.
here.
I mean, Jimmy Carter. I mean, what a hero, and his wife, what a heroine. And at the time when people are in a lot of angst
Yeah.
about your new president, to actually say, but let's not forget, we've had some really great guys, and here is one of the best, which is totally opposite to the current. But let's remember, America's got so many great presidents and politicians to be thankful for. To me, Bernie, that's a synchronicity that I look out for.
Now, somebody else who has a different perspective than what I think you and I have might see the two coming together as meaningful.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, they're not, and it's a coincidence because they can't really say how it happened, how these two events came together, but they did, and
yeah, yeah.
they're pretty fundamental. How would somebody who doesn't want to see it the way you just said it, but sees it anyway, how would somebody else might think about that?
You know, it's a tough one, Bernie, because a lot of people would say that synchronicity is just mumbo jumbo anyway. If they were
That,
on the side,
yeah, just throw it away. Yes.
they just
Okay.
throw it away. But so that's not concerning to me. What I see, Bernie, and I see this all over the world, and I'm keeping my eyes open more and more for it, is that we are moving to a better world, but actually we got to heal the shadow side first. And
Yeah.
I and, and I think the me first is, I hope, I mean, there's so many wonderful Americans who have contributed to the world, American aid, etc., does so much for the world, and I've seen that in action. So now we're in the grip of me first, and I'm
Yes.
trying to stay neutral on this in terms of politics. And so the healing of humanity is to say, we now have a current administration which is all about me first.
Yes.
And we need to go through the healing of that shadow side to reemerge over the next hill, because he only exists
because we want him to.
A majority of Americans. So what I'm doing for myself, I'm trying to purge myself of any selfish attitude, thought, idea that's similar to your president, so I can heal my shadow side. So I think that sometimes happens with regard to that. The other funny one, Bernie, I read the newspaper this morning. I don't know if you saw this story. There's a guy, I don't know whether it's in the States or Canada, but he's an outdoor photographer. And he watched a battle between a bald eagle and a Canadian goose.
Wow.
And he said, and I'll send you the story, I've still got it somewhere. And he said, in that battle, and it was in the middle of snow and everything, the American bald eagle would win every time. But in this situation, the Canadian geese survived and won. Now, what does that tell you about what's going on between your great country and your country to the north? So, I mean, so the healing of humanity, Bernie. I mean, so listen, what we're doing, and I love to see this conceptually. You've got individual synchronicity, you've got team synchronicity in organizations, you've got the larger world. And so the fact that somebody has published an article that they saw and took a photograph of this happening, that's a bigger synchronicity that says somewhere, somehow, that your new president is kind of not winning the tariff war and has got a response from Canada, which he didn't expect. And the Canadian goose got a response to the bald eagle, which the bald eagle didn't expect either. So what do you think of that?
I think it's wonderful the way you're thinking about it. And I want our audience to know that this is not the way I think about things, although I want to do the world. And that's why I'm glad you're here, because you're broadening my perspective that I need to get perspective. And you're a mirror of what I'm trying to write about right now. So you're expanding what I'm doing, which is again that mirroring thing that I like to do is I'm getting
Yeah, yeah.
information and guidance from you on this. And that bald eagle thing and the Jimmy Carter one are your ability to think organizationally, because you think organizationally is what I am trying to help us tap into. So those are beautiful examples. Keep going with how synchronicity and the world are operating.
Well, and the important thing to mention, though, is that that's no different from the individual synchronicity that happens in your life. So when you need something to happen, things you look around you and you see, oh my God, that's the answer I was looking for. So I think it's important that as we move into organizations, and I'm doing that and doing this great thing that you're talking about, the healing of humanity, is to recognize the dynamic is not different. The dynamic is the same. We're all concerned for where things are going in the world and how they are between nations. So then just read the news with a different eye.
Yeah, yeah,
And just look out and say, hey, and there are so many examples in history, Bernie, of how synchronicity happened. It's too many to mention.
Well, we need the stories. We being me,
exactly. Yeah,
well,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
we being me right now, because the story that I have used as a prototypical world synchronicity is COVID-19. That
Yeah,
the
yeah,
the virus was eating its host, the human body. It didn't matter if it killed people. That's just what it did. And then we go on to something else.
mm.
And that was a very good analogy to what human beings are doing to the earth, is eating our nest, destroying
Yeah,
our nest where
yeah.
we live. So that one struck me as a world-shaking synchronicity.
So yeah, and this is why I love what you're talking about these days, Bernie, because the answers that we can get are from nature. How is nature organizing itself in terms of helping us get clearer what are the answers to some of the questions that we face. I give you a very, very simple one, which happened to me today. I am thinking about, I'm 75 years old, 76 this year. I don't feel that old, but of course, my body probably is slowly breaking down to some degree. And I thought to myself this morning as I'm sitting in the car waiting to pick up my wife, and I said, how do I keep physically going? Because I've had some aches and pains recently. In front of me was a tree, an old, old tree. But I noticed that at the roots of the tree were new shoots and branches coming out. And I thought, how can that be? Trees, when they get old, just kind of wither and die. But here was a tree that at its roots were these green branches coming out. And so I said to myself, maybe there's hope for me yet. If nature and an old tree rejuvenates like this, that's an example to me. And so I posted about it today. So I think that nature already knows a lot of the answers to a lot of the issues that we face. And so part of what this noticing is about is, how does nature organize itself? That a while ago, I decided that if I'm going to do effective, deep teamwork, where I can heal conflicts between members of the team, then I needed to do this in nature. I needed to run my team sessions in nature. That was Monday here in Singapore. Wednesday, I got a mail from a bank in South Africa saying, "Dear Dr. Merry, we'd like you to run a team session for us on teamwork and fly fishing. And we're going to run it in a hotel outside Johannesburg. And we're going to let fly fishing, because there's a lake in the hotel, teach us about how to operate as a team together." That was Monday. Tuesday, I got another mail saying, "You're going to Sri Lanka." I already organized to go to Sri Lanka. Remember, don't forget, on Monday, I said I need to be out in nature. In Sri Lanka, the organization from New Zealand said, "We've decided to run our team session in the safari park. Are you okay with that?" So there I'm running a team session, and we have a day in the safari. And I say to people at the beginning of the team session, be going to the safari, we're going to go out to the safari today. Get yourself a question about you as a leader. And then as you're out in the safari today, see what answers come to you. And the following day, they shared the most incredible answers that they've got from nature. So remember, we're looking at individual synchronicity, team synchronicity, and healing humanity. Nature has answers for us. So part of the issue of how do we do this is to get out into nature and watch nature and see how nature heals and gives us answers to some of the questions that we have. Does that make sense, Bernie?
Of course, I was wondering. When you go out in Singapore, there's a lot of stimulation, a lot of that can be put together relative to what you're thinking about.
Yeah.
And if you're in a smaller town, maybe there's less. But then that doesn't mean there is less. It's all around you if you keep looking. And now you're adding a wonderful element of that. You've got a question. You want to see a mirroring, I'll say, answer to what
Yeah.
your question is.
Yeah.
And wherever you are, the kaleidoscope is going to give you what you're looking
And
for.
even but that's so important, Bernie, because the principle behind what you're saying is, wherever you are in your life, you're in the right place. And the small town can be there. Again, another quick story. I was doing a team workshop in Bhutan, in the Himalayas, and I was helping a team who were disbanding think about the next move. We were camped by a riverside, no town, no nothing. And I said to the group of people I was with, each of the one having to move on in their job, and I said, in terms of what you're going to do next in your life, I'd like you to now do a 1 hour silent walking meditation. And as you walk by the riverbank, see what answers come to you. The CEO came back and said, I got my answer. I've got my answer. I said, Peter, what do you mean? He said, as soon as I left the campsite, a dog started following me, and it followed me for the whole hour. And I realized that for my next job, I need to go back home because I miss my dog. And the fact that this dog just followed him in the middle of nowhere, just by the riverside, he said, confirmed that feeling of, I got to get back home to Holland, I think it was, to see my dog, because my dog means all the world to me. So there was nobody around. He got his answer straight away.
It's what we're talking about. And it's still the person making the interpretation.
Yes.
And it's so important that these things are there. These messages are out there, but it still has to go through the way in which the person thinks about the world.
Well, and that's important, Bernie, because to me, that's where head and heart come together. Your heart is your intuition, as Jesse was talking about in your latest podcast, but we have a head and a heart for a reason. And I think that in terms of making the decisions, when you listen to the heart, then your intuition can guide you. Sometimes actually it should be the brain. Because in terms of intuition, just to add something that I listened to your great session yesterday with Jessica, intuition has 3 categories. Number one, and you talked about this yesterday when I listened with Jessica, number one is people say, yeah, I know what to do. And they call it intuition, but it's not. It's that they've done and solved the same problem many, many, many times in their life, and they're just fast processing what's going on. The second category of intuition, when you know what to do, is because you are picking up the energy of the environment in which you are. Trees, animals, land, all have an energy system. And I know you go walking in your wood right close by. And then the third type of synchronicity, which is sort of intuition, is actually you connecting with the quantum field. And that's the raw intuition. But the other two are important. And I think, and I've not really said this before, Bernie. I mean, I've thought it many, many times. So thank you for pushing me on this one. I do think that our environment is a guidance system. Nature has its own intelligence, and the Schumann resonances and all of that. That's one way forward to healing humanity, is if we're actually healing the world, we're healing humanity too.
It is. It is. And what I'm describing are 3 spheres of influence on humanity. Uh, the, the Gaia sphere is the one that encompasses them all. It's the
Sure.
nature, the mind of nature, the heart of nature, really, that we are encompassed by. And within that is
Yeah.
the psychosphere,
Yeah.
which is a connection of emotion and telepathy, which is finally getting some belief to a podcast called the Telepathy Tapes, that it's real. How it happens is another question. I have some ideas. It happens through the psychosphere in my way of thinking. And then there's the noosphere, which is
Yeah.
our technological sphere, that is our roads and our communication systems, our travel, our trains and our planes, as well as the knowledge base that we've picked up. And these 3 spheres,
Yeah.
noosphere, psychosphere, Gaia-sphere, are there with information that can help the collective human organism develop its understanding of itself, and then evolve into a future that has to do with me becoming we, coming
Yes.
coming Earth. So
Yes.
that's my long way of saying that yes, nature is speaking to us, and I'm glad you are talking about that, and we have to be alert to it. I thought that as we were talking earlier about the COVID-19 being nature speaking to us, please tell us some more worldwide synchronicities, because that's what I'm particularly interested in hearing from you.
That, I mean, they're not really answers that I have to that, Bernie. Those are just my thoughts on this. But certainly the COVID situation was a way of getting us to understand how to bring humanity into the workplace. Because I think COVID happened to us in order for us to understand death, in order for us to understand that this is something that we need to face and talk about. I was part of a group in a bank, and they were doing their weekly sharing of what had happened that week. And this guy said, well, biggest thing for me this week was my best friend died. And the team didn't know how to handle it. So if I think about, the pandemic, and I hate it because I don't, I hate because so much suffering happened to people. But I think part of what COVID did to us was to help us wake up to realizing that, we only have a certain amount of time on this earth, and we need to bring the whole of the human being into the workspace.
The, the question I'm asking you is related to the Jimmy Carter
Yeah, yeah, I understand that.
inauguration one, and the Canadian goose, the American bald eagle. I mean, those are beautiful. But so you're saying you don't have any more of those? Those are like
I've got surmisings, Bernie, in the sense of, because I can't, I mean, how can I put this? I can't quite make sense of it yet. So when I look at Ukraine
yeah,
and Russia,
yeah.
what the hell is going on? So I know that there is a message there, but I'm not quite sure what it is. But what I'm certainly doing, Bernie, is in all of these international and warring situations, I'm looking out for what are the synchronicities that will help us move forward.
Well, there's one big synchronicity among them, among many. There's a movement in Germany and certainly has been in Hungary and now in the United States of a lot of meanness, a lot of meanness as well
Hmm.
as
Hmm.
me-ness about
Yeah.
all about me. So it's not just in the United States with our new president. It's in many different places around the world
Yes. Yes.
which people call populism, but it's not. It's reactionary and fundamentalist in the sense of meanness, which is the best way of thinking about it. And I'm so glad that you say that so clearly. What do you make out of that? You did already mention that, but it's happening
Well,
in multiple places.
it's you and I are old enough, Bernie, to remember the time when we thought that after the Second World War, everything's cool now. We thought that with the world order, the rule of law would apply everywhere. And I think what's happening now, because I always relate world events to what's happening to me personally on
Yeah,
a personal level. And
that's
it's
a
the
very that's very good. Yeah, go
and
ahead.
it's only happening in the same way. Your new president is only there because a lot of Americans think that way. And so I think that what's happening with this current administration that you have is to give a wake-up call to America to think about what happens when you have America First policies out there. And I think that that's happening all over the world. It's happening in Germany. It's happening in the UK with the whole Brexit thing. Um, and I think that we are being reminded that we can't sit too easily on the hard fought freedoms that your parents' generation and my parents' generation fought and died for. And so it's reminding us that in terms of healing humanity, because people would say at the moment it's like a step backwards. When you look what's been happening these last few days, is a step backwards. So I think it's telling us not to take for granted the freedoms that our parents' generation fought for, and that the underbelly of humanity will come calling for us at some point or another.
Very good. Very good. And I have yet a different part of the world that I'm asking about. China seems to
Yeah,
be rising now.
yeah. Well, it always has been,
It
but it's
always
kind of,
has been.
yeah,
It
yeah.
always has been, but rising now relative to the Western world is what I'm referring
Well, I
to.
mean, the fact that President Xi just said in response to your president's war tariff, he said, no problem, we'll win that war and any other war that you want to have. He said that yesterday, or was it today? And so that raises the certainty that there are kind of, how can I put it, autocratic regimes that are not worried about talking about World War III. And that scares the hell out of me. So I think that those autocratic regimes, and you're right, they're happening all over the world. In Hungary with Orban, in South America, there is this resurgence of this right-wing philosophy, right-wing ideology. And so how can I put this? I was in a coaching session yesterday as a member of a training session, and the guy was so good. He actually brought current politics into the session, and he asked us to think of your president and get into his psychology and send him good wishes.
Hmm.
And then he asked us to do the same with Zelensky. Half the people in the class didn't want to do it. So that just highlights that there's something going on at a bigger scale in the world, but you got to relate it to you as an individual. And what does it say for you as an individual? You can't condemn different presidents in the world for their right-wing attitudes without also dealing with your shadow side too. So I'm
That's
looking,
so important. That is so important.
yeah.
And you are doing that just looking at our current president in the United States and looking at your own shadow, and which
Mm,
means looking at your own me-ness. And I prefer that way of thinking about right wing versus left wing, um,
mhm,
because
exactly.
there's a lot of selfishness on both sides, and there is some awareness of of greater things within both sides. The
Right, right.
fundamental difference is the meanness and the we-ness that separates individuals. I'm better than you are versus
Yes,
we're part of this
exactly.
together.
And you know what really struck me yesterday, Bernie, in the State of the Union? I thought it was a brilliant speech. Now, I didn't agree with any of it, but it was a brilliant speech. And I think the opposition party just not clapping anything was not a good idea, because what moved me, I don't know if you saw the speech, but what moved me was this young kid who's got brain cancer, and he didn't die 6 years ago, but he's still got brain cancer, and he's now a policeman. Many different police authorities in the States have given him the badge of being a policeman. And I mean, brilliant mastermind in terms of TV. And then your president said, there's one more gift I want to give to you. I'm going to today make you an FBI agent. And the kid was just overjoyed. And so it's a tough one because, we want to hate certain politicians, But here's an absolute indication of humanity and the joy on this kid's face. And his father was a Sikh, I think, by the looks of it. And so they're from Asia, but they're US citizens. Here's a point of beauty. And so it reminded me that you can't sit and just criticize everything, that your so-called, now we could say he probably did it for, good publicity, but it didn't spoil the humanity of it. And so I always look out for kindness, Bernie, and wherever I see kindness in any part of the world stage, that says to me the shadow side and the light side are constantly together in a battle, in a sense. But don't not praise your opponents when there's light stuff going on,
Very
joyful stuff.
good. Very good. And the problem for most people is the dichotomizing, the either or, not
Yes.
the either both and as well, that we, each of us, have within us the nastiness, the shadow part, the selfishness, and the kindness, and to be
Yes.
able to recognize that we live in a polarized world. No matter what you call the politics, polarities are part of the way we live here. Night and
Yeah.
day, black
Yeah.
and white,
Yeah.
good and
Yeah.
bad are
Yeah.
all there, and resolving the polarity each time and
Exactly.
evolving from that resolution is what we're looking at being able to do.
And I think that's so important, Bernie. And what you've made me think, Bernie, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I believe fundamentally, although synchronicity guides us to some negative things that may happen and warns us,
Yes.
to me, synchronicity is a nudge towards wholeness, a nudge towards being on the right path in your life and putting yourself out in terms of what's your purpose in life and living your purpose. And so if it does that for me individually, and that again, maybe I didn't tell you this, but let me tell you in case I didn't. One of the 9 keys of synchronicity, I dubbed servant leadership, servant citizenship, because a lot of the people that I interviewed, asking them what facilitates synchronicity, they said to me, Phil, it seems to happen most when I'm doing stuff that's in service of other people. And so that's my key number 7. And I just dubbed it servant citizenship. And so the healing of humanity, and it's linked with what you're saying, Bernie, when we let go of the me and begin to think about the we, and first and foremost focus on how can we help other people, that's when synchronicity comes to our aid. And I think the healing of humanity is really, and what I love about it, Bernie, as I've said already, individual, group, world, the dynamic is the same. There's an energy system that wants to help us be better than we are.
And it would help if we paid attention to the possibility.
Yes, yes.
It would help if we, and that's, I mean, you can tell that what I do is trying to get people to pay more attention to meaningful coincidences.
That's why I love what you do, Bernie, and that's what you and I are about.
That's
We
what we're
you
about.
we've got
Yeah.
the bigger vision. I'm not saying we're not better than anybody, but yes, stories happen. I'm interested in saying, well, what does that mean for how we live our lives as
Yeah.
individuals, as families, as countries, as a globe?
Yeah.
Because the lessons of synchronicity are there for us.
The lessons of synchronicity are there for us. Well, we've come to the end of our time together, Phil. I mean, it went kind of quick. And so we're going to have to fade off.
Yeah.
I'm really encouraging you to come up with more worldwide synchronicities.
Well, I those examples I gave, I just scanned last
Yeah,
week.
that was recent. Yeah. So,
Yeah, I just
I mean,
and so
I'm
let me look at others.
you look for others because you're saying it, you're beginning to see it, but I would like your help in broadening the examples, the
Yeah, yeah,
stories, and
Okay.
the way to interpret them, so that as I'm writing this, I can integrate some of what you
Sure.
observe. So,
Sure, sure, sure.
let,
I'm very happy to do that, Benny. I'll look for the story of the Canada geese and the bald eagle, and I'll
thank you.
send that to you. But Bernie, I just want to say thank you to you. You've always done such great work, and I love your consistent championing of all this type of intervention and work. So it's an honor to talk to you again. I've really enjoyed today. It's a real conversation, as you always have. So a big thank you to you for all that you're doing.
You're welcome, Phil. And as you well know, I'm doing this because I have to.
Yes.
So
Yes.
what else am I going to do?
Yeah,
That's my job here, and
yeah. No,
it,
but you do it so well, Bernie. You do it so well.
thank you very much, Phil. And
And,
you're
and I
so
and I mean that, Bernie. Your podcast, I watch every one of them. They're mind-blowing. The interviews you have and the people that you have, fantastic. So congratulations.
thank you very much, Phil. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
All right. See you again soon. I'll look out for those stories and I'll send you as many as I can think of.
Thank you.